The moment you arrive in Germany and register your address at the town hall, your Anmeldung, a strict 6-month countdown begins on your driving privileges. You can legally drive with your Indian license for exactly 180 days. On day 181, it becomes invalid. Driving afterwards is a criminal offense. You must clear specific administrative and testing checkpoints before that window closes. The process follows 2 distinct routes. Path 1 covers those starting from 0, while Path 2 applies to anyone converting an existing Indian license. Even with decades of experience in Indian traffic, you are required to go through this process. Germany views its roads as a rigid system of synchronized movement that requires every driver to demonstrate the same technical standards. Before you can begin training, you must gather a foundational set of documents for the state. This checklist displays the core 5 requirements: a valid passport, registration certificate, a recent biometric photo, an official eye test, and a first aid certificate. Path 2 requires 1 additional item: an official German translation of your Indian license, typically issued by the ADAC. Take these to the local driving license office immediately. The state requires 4 to 8 weeks just to process the application and grant you permission to test. Use this waiting period to sign a contract with a licensed Fahrschule, or driving school. In Germany, all training must happen through these licensed institutions. When choosing a school, compare total costs rather than just the registration fee. Some schools use low entry prices to attract expats, only to inflate the total through unnecessary practice hours. Ask for a transparent price sheet listing the cost per hour for standard and special drives. This prevents the total from climbing thousands of euros higher than expected. Once registered, you move into the theory phase. The law mandates 14 lessons, which can now be completed online from home under 2026 regulations. You should book the official exam in English. The German version relies on highly technical vocabulary and complex sentence structures that make the questions unnecessarily difficult for non-native speakers. The exam has 30 multiple-choice questions. This gauge tracks error points, assigned based on a question's criticality to road safety. You have 45 minutes and a 10-point limit. Because safety questions are heavily weighted, missing just 2 5-point questions causes instant failure. Use the official driving app daily. This mock-up shows how the algorithm uses spaced repetition to identify your weak spots and force you to relearn the specific rules you get wrong. The theory test is designed to ensure you have learned to identify and respond to the specific risks the German state considers most dangerous. After passing the theory, you move behind the wheel. The specific training requirements depend on which path you are taking. Path 1 requires 12 mandatory special drives, 5 hours on country roads, 4 hours on the Autobahn, and 3 hours at night. For Path 2 conversions, the law lets you skip these 12 special drives entirely, offering a primary shortcut for experienced drivers. However, instructors will still require standard practice hours. Their goal is to identify and remove any driving habits that don't align with local regulations. The most common failure point is the right before left rule. At unmarked intersections, you must yield to any vehicle approaching from your right. Without stop signs to prompt you, you must look and yield automatically. Rolling through without yielding instantly ends the test. For expats, practical training is less about learning to steer and more about replacing old driving instincts with the specific behaviors expected on German roads. The final exam takes 45 minutes in live city traffic. An examiner sits in the back, observing your mirror checks and ensuring precision. This breakdown shows the total financial commitment. For beginners on Path 1, the total cost typically ranges between 2,800 and 3,500 euros. Path 2 is more affordable. Because you skip the mandatory special drives, a conversion usually costs between 1,500 and 2,500 euros. If you pass, the examiner hands you a temporary paper license in the car, which allows you to drive immediately while your permanent card is mailed to you. To avoid being stranded without a license after 6 months, download the Day 1 checklist in the description and start your application this week. Completing this process ensures you remain legally mobile and fully capable of navigating the technical and legal requirements of the German road system.